So let's get started with today's session. Let's introduce our panelists. Maybe if you could start with Johannes on that end. If you could state your name, when you graduated, what your background was before you joined the program, and what you're doing now.
Okay, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Johannes Haramse. I'm part of the previous cohort. So I graduated last year, June. My background, I'm originally from South Africa. I did my undergraduate degree in industrial engineering. I then went on to work as a data analyst in South Africa, specifically within healthcare. And within that role, I also dabbled a bit in data science. I tried to teach myself online all the fundamentals of data science, and then I figured that it will be a good idea to go into a Master's of Data Science program to lay down the fundamentals. So that's my background. Currently I work as an independent data science consultant here in Vancouver.
Great.
Hi guys, I'm Harjot. I am a current student in the MDS cohort. I did my bachelor's in statistics and further did my master's in operational research. Post that I worked for 2 years as a business analyst in healthcare analytics. Post that I realized that I wanted to get an idea of the data science domain and explore it to the entire span, and hence I joined the MDS cohort this year.
Great, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kitson Swan. I'm a graduate of the first MDS cohort that finished in 2017. Prior to coming to this program, I had a bachelor's degree in commerce, also from UBC, specializing in urban land economics and real estate. And I worked for about 8 years in that industry in various roles before deciding to come back to school. And now I work as a data scientist at a company called Embellis, which is a technology startup based out of LA that is trying to reinvent how we assess people for work and for admissions into colleges and other programs.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Let's get started with the first question. So feel free to answer the question if you have an answer for it. So I'm not going to ask a specific person to answer. What made you select the UBC MDS program over other programs at other universities?
From my perspective, when I applied, I did a lot of research, and at the time the UBC Master of Data Science program stood out above the rest, so that's why I wanted to do that.
And so before applying, I went through a lot of colleges in Canada and States, and I went through the entire curriculum because I wanted to approach data science not only from a practical aspect but also from an academic aspect. So I went through the courses, and UBC stood out because it has a pure data science course, and it touched all those topics and aspects that the other courses did not. So that is why UBC stood out, and you're only out of the market for 10 months, so that is a very huge add-on.
Yeah, I think I share some of the same reasons. I mean, some things that motivated me were that I could kind of step out of my career and do a 10-month program to gain a master's degree in a totally new area and not be off of working for too long, because I was a bit older when I went back to school. The other thing too was just that UBC's program at the time, and I think still is, was pioneering, and there wasn't a lot of other programs that were specializing in data science. And I also liked the structure of the program. The courses were very small, focused, and condensed, and you kind of moved through the curriculum and in a way it was pretty different to traditional education, 3-credit, full-term classes, and I thought that was a great idea.
Yes. I just want to second what Kitson said. The curriculum is it's very diverse, but it allows for a well-rounded program, which is good.
Great, thank you. So there's a lot of online programs out there, like Bootcamps and some other online courses. So how do you think these boot camps are different from a master's degree, like the Master of Data Science program?
Personally, when I was working in my company earlier, and I looked through a lot of courses on Coursera and we would go through all these machine learning courses. But one thing that that stands apart when you're learning in an educational environment is you get to learn so much from the other people that are studying with us. Not only that, you get to do so many group projects. You're actually working in a simulated professional setting, and you're working on real life data sets, and you are trying to implement things that you might not be able to do on an online course that just takes you from one assignment to the other. But here you're getting to learn with other people and to learn from their experiences and delve deep into a topic that you might want to. So I think that is how it provides a different edge over it.
Great.
I think there's a number of differences. I think there's a ton of value in those small bootcamp programs. I have quite a few friends actually who've done those similar things, not specific to data science, but to software development. I think the advantage of those programs is that they're usually short. There's a lot of coding bootcamps out there where you can kind of get in and gain a marketable skill in 2 or 3 months and then get out and get a good job, and that's great. But I think that the breadth of material that's covered in the UBC MDS program is too large to expect to be able to take in like a 2 or 3 month period, and even 10 months is challenging and rigorous. And so I felt like the 10-month timeline was a good balance of being able to really explore the curriculum and gain a broad understanding of the subject matter. The other thing too is that just in terms of marketability as somebody coming out of school, you have the name of a good university as well as a master's degree rather than some online training, which I think is being respected more and more these days, but it's still a question in my mind at least of which credential do you want? And beyond that, I guess your other options would be to say pursue something like a PhD, but that's at the far end of the spectrum. That's going to take multiple years, and especially if you don't already have the prerequisites. So I felt like this program kind of really fit like a perfect niche between something like a boot camp and a full PhD or master's degree.
Great, thank you. So kind of building on career change, there's a question here from a person that says, I'm trying to switch career paths from a Bachelor of Music to data science. How is that? Do you recommend the MDS program for that? And any comments?
Yeah, well, in my cohorts, and I think in the other cohorts as well, there's a very wide diversity of backgrounds from the students that's in the program. It's doable. Like anyone can do the program, or if you're willing to put the time and the effort into it, anyone can do the program. So if data science is your passion or you want to use it in a specific industry, I would highly recommend it. Yes.
I would add to that, given that you fulfill the prerequisites that the program requires, and if you do that, then you can definitely pursue the MDS program. Even in my cohort, we have people from genetics, we have people from aeronautics, and we have people from different fields, and they're all pursuing the program. So yeah, if given you meet the prerequisites and you want to learn about data science and you have a good hand at coding, yeah, you can definitely pursue MDS.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you really need a specific background. I think, in fact, the diverse backgrounds of the students has been a good thing in terms of your experience working with other people, but I think definitely you want to have a foundation of mathematics and statistics and be passionate about programming, because in the course and in your career as a data scientist, you're going to do a lot of it. So if you don't have those skills yet, you should work on them, and you should make sure that that's something you really want to do.
Okay, so just to build on that again, there's a question here about self-learning. So what self-learning would you recommend to prepare yourself to excel in this program?
Basic Python and R coding. If you can get well known with the well-known the Python packages that's typically used within data science, and then as well the R popular packages. And yeah, also statistics, mathematics, as Kitson said, if you can freshen up on that or get the basics done for that, it'll be good.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with all of that. I think in addition to that, if you already have some background in computer science and programming, a great way to start working on your skills is just to dive into some problems, and you can do that by going on to Kaggle and finding data sets to play with and competing in competitions. And I think most cities these days have some pretty good meetup groups that you can attend to kind of get involved in that too.
Great. So what's the most valuable thing you gained from this program?
Definitely knowing that my fundamental understanding of data science is correct. That was the main objective for why I entered the program, and I got that out of the program, definitely.
I think applicability that comes into, so most of the programs you really want to understand what is the practical, like would you be able to go and work right out of the program, can you go and work in a professional setting? So yeah, the amount of practical experience that you gain through MDS with all the real life data that we work with in projects with Capstone, I think that is something that is really valuable in the MDS program. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to elaborate on that too, you know, there's data science as a career is a really young field, and there's people coming at it from many different perspectives. There's people transitioning from, you know, with PhDs in physics and chemistry and biology who have some quantitative skills, some programming skills, have a strong knowledge of mathematics and statistics. But the thing that the MDS program is going to give you, and this has been my experience, that you won't necessarily get somewhere else, is a foundation across a broad range of skills in data science. And you know, and you get that benefit because some very smart people sat down and thought a lot about what does it mean to be a data scientist, and what skills do you need to have in your toolkit to be good at this stuff. And so I think there isn't a lot of other places you can go to get that all in one package.
Great, thank you. So here's a question for the two alumni here. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience with the Capstone project and how teams work together and split the work?
So maybe starting at the back, splitting the work, as with most team projects, the best, well, it's up to the students to decide who does which part, but it works well if you can identify who is really good at a specific thing, and focus on each person's strengths. My experience with the Capstone project, it's a very good experience to take a real life problem that an actual company is experiencing, and a project that a company wants to approach from a data science perspective. It's good to build that experience of dealing with that real life type of data science problem. Yes.
Yeah, I think in terms of, I mean, just take a bit of a step back. Like when you're in school, you're often presented with data sets that are both clean, but also you're presented with a really clear research goal in mind, and you're saying, you know, this is the answer that we're looking for, go and find it. With the Capstone project, you know, that's not clear. Most of the companies come into it with a general idea of something they want to achieve, but you as the student group have to basically kind of extract from them exactly what it is that the deliverable that they want you to produce, and kind of massage that into like an overall goal. And then that's kind of like step one. And then once you have that, like Johanna said, you can start to break apart the responsibilities and say like who is going to tackle each part. And I found in our team it was you know, it was partly due to interest, or partly due to like ability in certain areas, but also just you know, what do you want to tackle? And there's some people that maybe weren't like the strongest programmers but that really wanted to sink their teeth into a difficult problem, and so that's kind of how we broke it up.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's talk about the MDS courses and the current program. How is your typical day and week structured? Maybe you can start with that since you're in the program right now.
Yeah, so heads up, it's rigorous, it's challenging. If you're in it, you're totally in it. And so what the MDS course structure is that you take up the one block consists of 4.5 weeks, wherein you take 4 subjects that are totally diverse, and they change every block. So you have a total of 6 blocks. In every block you go through 4 labs per week for every subject, and you have to submit them. Like you would either have a deadline on Saturday, we have it on Saturday, but the previous courses have had it on various other days. But the idea is to get done with 8 labs, 4 into 4, 16 labs, and you finish 4 courses in that one block, and then you move on to the second block and the third block, and you finish 6 blocks, and within 10 months. So yeah, that is pretty rigorous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I don't know how much things have changed since I went through the course. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I would say, you know, you only have 10 months to complete this, and it's a lot of material, and so you have to realize that basically you're not going to have much time to think about anything but data science for that 10 months. But to me, I think that's a really positive thing, because you don't often get those opportunities to really like remain focused on something for that long. So I would just, but you have to be ready to do the work, and it's a lot of work, so come prepared.
It's a full-time program, and even when classes stop, you'll still continue working on assignments and so on.
Also, there are quizzes too, so that is one thing that I left out. There are also quizzes for every courses, so that help you not only approach the subject from a practical coding point of view, but also from an understanding aspect, that you understand what the course is, and yeah, so that is the quizzes part. Yeah.
Right. Great. There was a question about working part-time or doing other things. You kind of alluded to it, but can you expand on that?
Yeah, I actually was working part-time, I think 2 days a week, and I know some other people were doing some additional work as well. I think that it's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have to do it. I think going back to what we were just saying, I mean, it's a lot of work, and you're basically not going to have any free time. So if possible, just don't work. But if you need to, then you need to. But make sure it's a really small portion of your time. And I would also suggest make sure it's something that is not mentally taxing, because you're not going to have a lot of juice left over after a day going through the program.
I also worked part-time when I did the program, but initially when the program started, I dedicated quite a bit of time towards my part-time remote work. But as the program progressed, I realized that it's not the smartest idea to take on this part-time work. So it's not as advised as Kitson said.
Great. Okay. What's the most exciting course you've taken in the program so far, or now that you finished it?
I mean, I like the machine learning courses the best. You know, all of them, I couldn't just pick one. And that was the thing that I was most interested in coming in, and the courses I found most interesting. But they're not a clear winner. There was so much interesting content, it's hard to say.
Personally, for me, machine learning was probably also my favorite courses. But it's personal preference. Everyone has their own best course in the program.
I
Do you have a favorite yet?
Yeah, I do. So, yeah, so I'm in block 4, and till now, I think for me, yeah, it's hard to pick a winner, but the workflows project, we had to implement a project that had a seamless flow, and anyone who has GitHub or like has access can actually run your project without even having all the dependencies. So we were working with Docker, we were working with Makefiles, and I felt that was one of very innovative and something out of the box projects. Yeah.
That's actually a great answer, because the reality is that you're going to actually use that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a perfect segue to my next question, which is what are the practical things that you learned in the program?
Yeah, I think I would say there's very few things that we learned in the program that weren't practical. You know, a lot of the workflow stuff, I mean, creating reproducible research is a challenge, and I think a lot of the tools that we learned about in the program, in order to create those reproducible workflows and interfacing with things like Amazon Web Services, is all really important. You know, it's tough to pick one thing, but I think really it's a combination of core programming skills that you may or may not already have, an understanding of statistics and machine learning that will enable you to do the research, and it's knowledge of the tools that allow you to actually get that stuff done. I mean, it's often referred to as software carpentry. It's like tying a bunch of different disparate systems together, but all those three things together, I think the combination of both those things is what has made the program really practical.
And to to add on to that, there's also the softer skills like communication, working in teams, things like that you also get exposed to through the program.
Great. Okay. Let's see, the next question. All of the courses seem to be kind of level 1 courses. This is a question that somebody poses. Does the MDS program provide a deep insight into the subject matter of the course?
Level, I quite don't understand what level 1 would be. If that's the rating for difficulty, the definitely difficult courses. And coming on to the level of insight, I understand, I was also curious about it coming into the course, that's really short time span to cover that much course with. And so would you delve deep? Would you actually understand the course material? And yes, MDS provides you the opportunity to delve deep into any topic that you feel like, and even if for a person who's not from a core statistics background or from a course programming background, they might find it difficult to delve deep into some mathematical equation that's going behind some machine learning algorithm. But there are definitely questions on the labs that allow you the bandwidth to go and delve deep and get more insight into any topic that you feel like.
The program gives you the opportunity to delve deep. It's not necessarily everyone might invest that much time and delve into that much depth, but the program gives you that opportunity.
I would think about it too, like, I mean, the level 1 is just a naming convention, but what you're really doing is at the end of the program, you are exploring like the most complicated topics, advanced machine learning, advanced statistics, for example, and everything that happens before that is like basically building a foundation so that you can properly understand that material. So it's not a case of like, you know, them all being introductory courses. It's more, think of it like a whole body of material, and you are progressing through that body of material from the foundation to kind of like the peak of it, nearing the end of it.
Great. So if there was something that you would add to the program, it's something that you think is missing, what would it be?
If you had to stick to the 10 months, I don't think it will be possible to add anything more, to be honest.
Yeah. Taking 24 courses in 10 months, I think that's a lot, and adding more to it would, yeah, I think that it covers it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would take away?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's tough to say. I mean, the program adapts as you go along, even within the first cohort, you know, changes were being made almost in real time to some of the courses that we were doing, so I can't speak to this year, but I don't think there's really anything I would take out, and like these two said, I don't think there's really much time to add anything else in either.
I would like to add that one thing that I really like about the program is the continuous feedback that is between the instructors and the students. So with every cohort that's progressing, instructors are taking feedback and adapting the course as we move forward. So yeah, there would be a better catered course with the next cohort. So that is something.
Great, thank you. Here's a very specific question. On a daily basis, how much time do students spend in coding?
Coding.
Well, I guess as a student, you can answer that one.
Okay. As a student, given that you have labs due every week, I would spend around 4 hours coding maybe every day, if you want to get done early, that is. And if
Every day or every week?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah. It could be less. It depends on how much, what's your strength as a coder, but yeah, you could expect at an average 2 to 3 hours of coding at least per day. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, if my memory serves me correctly, it was at least that much.
Yeah.
Depending on the course.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the course curriculum involve applications of data science in any particular domain, or provide a general idea? Kind of talked about this a little bit already.
I think in my year we had like a lot of data sets that we worked on. I think that you know, through the capstone project you work on data in many different domains, so you get to choose which domain you want to work on. And through the course, the instructors curate a list of data sets that you work on and you can choose from. And I suspect it's kind of the same. My guess would be that there's probably more diversity of data sets now than there was in our years.
I think throughout the 8 months that we're pursuing, toward the 6 blocks, you basically get to touch on different data science topics, and you actually covered quite a lot of the span that data science has. And then I think as further you progress to capstone, you can actually choose a domain and then specialize. So, and I think that's how the program has been structured.
Yeah, through the assignments you get exposure to a diversity of data sets within different industries. So.
Okay, great. Here's a specific question as well. Could you mention or list some open source projects or libraries developed by the students of the MDS program?
I don't know.
I think most of our projects are public on GitHub and for UBC MDS, so you're welcome to go through them. Yeah, I think they're public, yes.
Yeah, there's not any specific ones that come to mind, but there are quite a few that you can find on GitHub.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so we're going to shift focus a little bit and talk about MDS careers. So maybe a little bit more relevant to the two alumni on the panel. What are the typical career path for students or alumni of the program, in your opinion?
It depends on your interests, maybe also on your background, but more your interests. You don't have to go into a specific domain or niche. It depends where you want to go into, but the beauty of data science is that it's applicable within any industry. So it's up to you which industry you want to work in.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things too. I think you kind of have two main paths that you can go as a data scientist, and one is working as a data scientist for a company that's not necessarily a technical company in a certain domain, because like any large organization these days is creating like a huge amount of data and it needs to be analyzed. And so there's data scientist positions within many companies that aren't necessarily like technology companies. And then the other route would be working as a data scientist within a technology company like an Amazon or a Google, who's the focus of the company is technology. And I think those are two pretty different choices, and really you just have to decide like which route you want to go, and you don't have to, it's not a forever choice, but some people want to take the domain that they were in before and apply data science to it, and that's a totally valid choice. And then some people want to be in the technology industry in general, and so those are two different ways to kind of approach a career.
So maybe you guys can talk a little bit about what path you've been taking since you graduated and how you ended up where you ended up.
Yeah, my path is maybe a third path. But yeah, so as I mentioned, I work as an independent data science consultant, so I don't focus on a specific industry. I've got a few clients that I work with within different industries, and it's different type of data science problems that I have to solve.
Sorry, what was the question again?
What path did you take?
Oh, my path. Okay,
yeah.
So when I graduated, I worked for starting out. I worked for a year at a company called Finger Food Studios, which was a contract software development company. So that would be like kind of the second option that I described earlier. I was working for a company that built software for other people, and I was a data scientist working on that team. So we worked on a number of different projects and got exposure to a lot of things. And now I'm working kind of in the other area. And while the company's like a technology company, it's like an education-focused, assessment-focused company. So I would say now I'm kind of working in a specific domain on data science problems. And so I've kind of seen both angles, and there's great experience to be gained from both.
Great. What do you think are the data science job prospects in, let's start in the Vancouver area first, in your experience?
Currently, there's a lot of opportunities. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and I think throughout the UBC Bachelor of Data Science program, it's fairly easy to at least get into the initial interview rounds, but then it's up to you to prove yourself. But there's opportunities within Vancouver in a wide diversity of industries or domains.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of jobs out there. I think though that maybe something that's different about data science as a career that you need to be aware of is that it's so young that the definition of data science in people's minds is still very fluid. So, you know, you see a job posting for a data scientist and you really need to like read those job postings carefully and figure out exactly what they're talking about, because there's this huge spectrum of different work you can do within data science, and people might, like the employer might have a different idea of what a data scientist is than what you think it is. I think coming out of this program, you have a pretty concrete view of like the skills of a data scientist and the work that a data scientist is going to do, and just know that that doesn't necessarily jive with what the employers think of as data science. So I think, you know, comparing it to careers like, say, if you were like going into finance or an accountant, you know, the definition is so fluid that you have to do a bit more work yourself to decide like which roles are right for you and which ones you want to target. But there are lots of jobs out there.
And how do you think the Vancouver market compares to maybe the Canadian market or internationally in terms of data science jobs?
Yeah, go ahead if you want.
There's definitely also opportunities in Toronto and Montreal and other areas of Canada, and the same for the rest of the world. There's a demand for data scientists internationally, so it's up to you where you want to work.
Yeah, I think Vancouver definitely has a growing data science community. I think Toronto, being the biggest city in Canada, has probably the most jobs. Ottawa also has quite a few jobs. And then obviously in the US, major centers, you know, especially LA and San Francisco, are probably like the most density of jobs and the highest paying jobs. But also another thing to think about is that, you know, as a data scientist, you can work from anywhere. So you can be looking for jobs that aren't, you can work from Vancouver still and work like I do and work for a company that's based somewhere else. It's also an option. So.
Great. Okay. How do, now that you are in the job market a little bit, how do employers view MDS students?
As I mentioned earlier, by having the MDS qualification, I would say you have the opportunity to at least get into the initial interview rounds, and employers recognize that this program is a good program. But then within the interview rounds, you still need to prove your worth to land the jobs.
Yeah, I think maybe going back to something I was saying earlier about kind of like the different directions that people come at data science from. And I can't say this is true for all employers, but I know I spent some time interviewing candidates at my previous job, and something that being somebody who graduated from the MDS program, and also my other coworkers kind of knowing me and knowing my skills, the advantage that MDS grads had when they were looking for those positions is that you have like a really solid knowledge of like what their foundation of skills is. And you can clearly see like the topics that they've covered and the things that, or like the skills that they have gained over that master's degree. Whereas people coming from different domains, like you can see they might be strong in one area, math or statistics, but you don't know, like, say, how their data visualization skills are, or how they are as a general software developer. Like, can they follow good coding practices and standards? And so I think there is now, and even more so in the future, there will be an advantage coming out of this program, because a lot of employers will know like the caliber of student that comes out of this program, and also just the foundation of knowledge that you have.
Okay. So you could talk about this question as well. Can you provide examples of how the program supported you in building career opportunities upon graduation? Were there any recruitment events organized? Which employers attended? How did you build up kind of your job search skills?
So currently, since we're in block 4 and now would be, I think, post this would be a good time to get on starting with searching for the jobs. The program for us is organizing resume workshops, LinkedIn networking workshops, entrepreneurship workshops, which I think are a good add-on. And also, we also have the Capstone Fair, where you have all the companies come in. They'll be featuring for the Capstone projects. So these are good networking opportunities. To add on to that, UBC in itself, the UBC career fairs, they also organize a huge career fair where you have at least 100 employees coming in. So that is also a very good opportunity to network and see around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was tons of opportunities to meet employers in the MDS program. There was like many lunch and learn opportunities set up. There was all the interfacing you had with the different companies that were doing capstone projects. And then there was also the UBC recruiting events, the same thing. But I would say too, just to note, like, you should be proactive in your search. You know, you want to attend those events. You want to make sure that you know, you get in front of as many different employers as possible. But you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't kind of start thinking about like who you wanted to work for and start searching out those roles yourself. And because you'll kind of open yourself up to like many more opportunities if you start researching those positions ahead of time and finding out what companies are looking for. And in the case, you might even find companies that don't even have an open position, but that they're like a company that you're interested in and you want to work for, and you can maybe even create a position by doing that.
Anything you want to add, or?
No, not specifically, but well, maybe to add a small thing, even outside of UBC, within Vancouver as a whole, there's a lot of networking opportunities. There's meetups that you can go to, but as Kitson said, be proactive and use those networking opportunities. But there are more than enough opportunities that you can make use of.
How did you find your first job after graduation?
Yeah, it was a great experience.
How did you find it? Like, where did
how did I find it?
Sorry.
Yeah, I found mine through the UBC, the general UBC career fair.
Okay.
And actually mine was an example of like the last point that I was making, which was that they as a company had been thinking about data science. They hadn't actually posted a position yet, and I just kind of happened to talk to them at the right time, and they decided through the course of the interviews that they actually wanted to follow through creating that position. And so that's why I say, you know, again, it's like a very young field, and a lot of companies are thinking about data science, and they might not have taken the plunge of actually creating a position yet, but they're probably like almost right there. They see the value in it, but they just haven't done it yet. So that's why I suggest, you know, go to all the events, do everything you can, but also be proactive and search out places that you want to work.
And how did you find your clients as an independent?
Also just through networking, through people that I've met. There in my personal case, there were people that I knew that knew people who had problems to solve and that I could help with. So that's how it came about.
Great. Here's a very specific question about careers in data science. So this person intends to continue programming as a machine learning engineer. Do you think that MDS can help him or her achieve this goal?
Yeah, I mean, simple answer is yes. I mean, you cover a lot of machine learning topics and get exposed to things that are basically will make you improve your skills in that area. So I don't see why not.
Okay, great. So more questions about careers. Have you applied your learning at MDS in your current work?
Yes, definitely. All the tech side of my work is essentially everything relies on what I was taught in MDS.
I would say the same for me. I mean, I use all the tools that we learned here basically on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. What career advice did you receive when you applied for your first data science job?
I don't know, really. I mean, beyond the typical career advice of, you know, making sure your resume was up to par, and that I think actually, you know what, they're the best piece of advice I think, and it was actually through one of the lunch and learn events that the MDS program set up for us, was just about being proactive in your job search, and specifically about when you go to a networking, go to a recruiting event, don't just walk in there blind. Look at, because they always publish the list of companies that are there, so look at every company on that list and basically create a short list for yourself of the companies that you want to go and talk to, learn about the company, figure out if they have data scientists, if they do machine learning, and like walk in there being prepared to like talk about what they do and ask questions, because that will set you apart so well compared to most people, which you know, just come in without even thinking about what the companies do ahead of time.
Yes. Being proactive and being prepared, that's the best advice.
Okay. Without getting into specifics, what do you think, where are data science salaries at?
Yeah, I think we can be somewhat specific. I think that in Vancouver, you know, from what I've seen, starting data scientist salaries can range, you know, from 70 to 100,000. And if you're looking outside, if you're looking in the States, that number can be a lot higher depending on where you work. And so it's really a huge range. I think in Canada in general, the salaries are lower than in the United States. But you know, you also have remote working opportunities too, where you can do that as well. So, but I would say, really, it's probably that $70,000 to $100,000 range, I would think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you give an example of an average day at work as a data scientist?
You guys want to go first on it?
Yeah, well, me specifically, I have to deal with a lot of admin work, so a lot of meetings, a lot of emails. When it actually comes to the work, it depends on the specific project that I'm working on. So I wouldn't say there's like an average day in the life of it varies from day to day outside of the admin work.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. It's hard to say like what an average day looks like. I mean, I can say that well, first of all, in any job, like there's always things that are outside the scope of like your technical capacity that you're working on. So like you have meetings, you have administrative stuff, you have sprint planning, whatever. But in terms of the actual data science work, like there is a large component of the work that is just preparing to actually do analysis. So like retrieving data from somewhere, from a database, from a file, cleaning that up, getting it in the right shape to be able to do the analysis, doing data visualization, and then actually running some kind of, you know, statistical model for interpretation or doing some machine learning. You kind of do, in my experience, you do all of those things as well as just a lot of general software engineering. But what it looks like on any typical day can really vary. You might be doing data cleaning for a week at a time to get ready, or you might be doing pure software development that actually doesn't have any analysis for a week at a time to get ready to do something, and then you might be just doing analysis for a week or two at a time. So it's really all over the place.
Do you think that there's anything in your jobs that you're doing right now that you didn't learn in the course, in the program?
I think the only thing would just be those skills that we were talking about, the administrative stuff that's like outside the domain of data science. You know, if you're working within a technical company, you do a lot of planning. You do a lot of like sprint planning is the technical term. You often work in 1 or 2 week long sprints, and so you have to go through this process of thinking about, okay, what are the tasks I'm going to try to accomplish in the next 2 weeks, and how long are those tasks going to take? And you know, we joke a lot about that we're, as humans, we're like inherently optimistic, and that makes us terrible at estimating how long things take. So if I had to like focus on one thing, I would probably say that is something we didn't learn in the MDS program, though I don't know if it's something that should be in there.
Yes, I agree with that.
Great. let me see here. There is a lot of questions that are now similar to what you've already answered, so I'm going to skip a few of them. So here's a general question about just living in Vancouver. Was it difficult finding a place to live in Vancouver, especially for people that came in from outside of Vancouver?
Yeah, yeah, I'm an international student, and I started, so as soon as I got my admit, I started looking for places, and since I wanted to live on residence, I applied to all the residents that were available. I think there's a winter and there's year-round residence, so I would suggest that, yeah, that is one way to go. It's a little expensive to stay on campus, but on the other hand, you can look for places that are a little far away, like you would, since Vancouver has a very efficient transport system, you could stay 15 to 20 minutes away and get something at lower rent. But yeah, there are various websites that you can go on and look for, so yeah.
Yes. I was also in the fortunate position to live in residence when I studied there. It helps a lot if you can stay on campus, but public transport also makes it fairly easy to get onto campus.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't live on campus. I grew up in Vancouver, and I live in North Vancouver. But I would say if you are free to live wherever you want, I would highly recommend living on campus, because it'll just make it a lot easier for you to interface with other students and come to networking events and to lunch and learns, and to kind of really be free to just like always be able to attend all the events that you want to. But everybody's circumstances are different, so whatever works.
Okay. You alluded on your communication with other students. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you worked or interacted with other students in the program, but also maybe with alumni who have graduated?
Well, I guess at the time when I was in the program, there was no alumni, because we were the first year. But now that there is alumni, for example, I work with 2 other alumni from my year as well, which is great. It's really cool to be able to kind of extend that relationship, and also we have remained pretty close in contact with people from our cohort, and a lot of people attend the meetups, data science and machine learning meetups in Vancouver, and also the MDS program has done a great job of kind of like maintaining a connection. And beyond that, we set up an alumni Slack channel, which all the years are invited to, and so there's a lot of communication that happens in there, which is great.
Yeah. In terms of communication, there's a lot of communication. We recently had a workshop with one of our seniors and our alumni, and she came in and she told us about how to approach the job market and how to be prepared to get into the job market, and how to get our resumes lined up and how to see which job to apply for. So that was very helpful. We're also in collaboration with organizing the Women in Data Science event with 2 of our alumni, and yeah, and I think the Slack channel helps a lot, so there's a to and fro interaction between the alumni and the current cohort. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Here is a question that came in live. At what point in your lives, or in the MDS program, did you realize that you're enrolled in the right or wrong program?
For me, it was like day one, probably.
Yeah.
I felt good right away.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have any different experience there.
No, right away.
Yeah, for me, I've always wanted to do a master's in my field of choice, and yeah, so it was the right decision.
Okay. Here's another question about salaries, but I think we've answered it already. Is it somewhat true that Canadian data science jobs pay less than their American counterparts, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I mean, you can go on any salary website and you can figure that out yourself. It's true. I think in terms of salaries across Canada, like Toronto, the salaries are higher, but again, it's just because of the density of jobs and competition for candidates. But you know, there's a lot of technology companies coming to Vancouver. Microsoft, Amazon's bringing 3,000 new jobs, and I think that hopefully that's going to change the salary picture in Vancouver a bit. But there's no doubt. I mean, if you look at the salaries that are being earned, you know, in Silicon Valley, yeah, they're far higher than in Canada. But also, you know, you have to go there, which can be a challenge both from the visa perspective and the cost of living in those cities is also really high. I mean, not that Vancouver's not, but.
Okay, great. I think we're almost at the end of all the questions that I have. Let me just check really quickly what's coming in. What was something that you went into the program assuming or believing that ended up being different from your expectations?
Before the program, I thought that the curriculum or the course content was going to be quite watered down, just because it's only 10 months and it feels as if it should be impossible to get through all the courses mentioned. But once in the program, you realize that you're in for a ride, and that it actually goes into a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. I thought that, yeah, it's 10 months and, you know, how the amount of course that can be covered is not that much. So, but when I started the course, I realized, yeah, you are totally in it and you're going to cover a lot of areas and topics.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that too. I'd forgotten about that, but definitely I think I wasn't expecting how challenging some of the material and how in depth it would go.
Great. One more question here about interaction within the cohort between students. Are there group projects, activities? What's the percentage you spend kind of by yourself versus in group projects?
Yeah, I think block 3 onwards, one course is dedicated to a group project wherein you're paired with a person and you have to work with that person throughout that block, and that gives you the opportunity to work that's a simulated professional environment, how it would be like when you actually go out and work in a real world setting. So yeah, those are the group projects. Also, in the lab, you're working together with your cohort, so you get to learn a lot with everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I think my experience was similar. There wasn't that many actual group projects in our year. There's a few where you were partnered, and then I think 1 or 2 where you were fully doing a group project, and then obviously the capstone project is a big group project. But most of the work was done individually, but in the labs, you spend a lot of time interacting with other students mostly because the material is challenging, and so you like run into problems and you start working with other people to try and figure them out. So.
You interact a lot with other people in the program, and even outside of labs and classes and everything, you still work on the assignments together.
Also, we have the Slack channel, and so, even when you're off the lab, you're actually communicating with everyone and getting things done. So yeah, there's a lot of communication going on.
Okay. How about communicating with the faculty and the instructors?
It's actually very easy, and
yeah.
I had not imagined that, but it's actually very easy how quick the rewards are, and it's basically because of the Slack channel, and you have channel per course, so you have a doubt, you post it, and by next morning you have an answer for that. So that is something, and you have TAs also, teaching assistants, lab instructors, so that's like there's a whole group working, to get things done.
Yeah, I think that was something that was pretty special about the MDS program, and compared to any other education that I've done in the past, was like, you were up at 10 at night working on some assignment, and you post an answer in there just like with your fingers crossed, but not really expecting an answer, and then you have one of the faculty members answering you like that evening, right? So it really felt like they were as much, they were working just as hard as you were, and I think really that they were.
All the faculty are willing to help you, and they go above and beyond outside of normal hours. They'll still try to answer your questions where they can.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Any final comments you would like to share before we sign off for the day?
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with the application. Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us for this question and answer period on Facebook. much appreciated. I hope that everyone out there got all the questions answered that they had. Again, I'd like to stress that if you have any questions that we didn't go through about the student experience, feel free to email us. Or call us, and we can always answer your questions through email. Also to let you know that on the 29th of January, also from 1 to 2 p.m., so the same time slot, we have another Facebook Live event, this time with instructors and program administrators to go over admissions questions, prerequisite questions, tuition, fees, scholarship, all those things. So if you'd like to join us for that, feel free to sign up if you haven't done so already on Facebook or on our website. So once again, thank you very much, and I hope to see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.